Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Bluetron, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. Now today we're trying out the new Zoodiac, Magical Musketeer, an archetype so gimmicky that it's gotta be broken. I'd be hard-pressed to think of another archetype with as much hype up to their release than these bad boys, and the bar they've set is so astronomically high, there's no way I can possibly be anything but disappointed. So, let's jump into Deck Edit and see just how disappointed I get. So, here's the list. Now, you might notice that many of these cards look strikingly familiar. I think at least until we hear word from on high, including things like Grinder Golem to make Skull Death is just a little too good to pass up. As always, I'll give you a little bit of background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and as always, the card by card. So firstly, Magical Musketeers, or Magibullets, depending on how advertiser-friendly you want this video to be, is an archetype of level 3 and 4 monsters from the newest pack, Spirit Warriors, that all get effects when spell or trap cards are activated in the same column as them. That's right, Blasting Fuse is now a full-fledged archetype. They've also got a bunch of pretty compelling reasons to play them. One of their traps is effectively a Solemn Judgment for other spells and traps, their other is Phantasm Spiral Battle, which worked out pretty well for pacifists, and their other cards are okay, but most importantly are activatable during the damage step. Theoretically, you should be able to use Castbar to loop through relevant spells, Starfire to ensure you've always got the right one of these suckers out, and Dock to recycle through what you've already used. Unfortunately, this deck is prone to bricking. Normal summoning one monster isn't nearly as powerful as it used to be, and if that monster is something like Dock turn 1, or your spells are something like Never Endorphin, then you are up the creek. Thankfully, we have access to the beefiest, baddest Skull Death enabler ever, Grinder Golem, and since we're pressed for playables, we can also play a couple of copies of Magical Contractor to ensure that we're always seeing it. After doing the combo, we can special summon a Castbar, which we're almost sure to have with our unbelievable amount of draws, and follow him up with either the most relevant Magical Musketeer spell or trap in our hand, or if we're really lucky, a copy of Ties of the Brethren. Best case scenarios look really good for the deck, often allowing us access to Solemn Judgment, a Phantasm Spiral Battle, and an Effect Negator. So, with that out of the way, let's move on to the card by card. First are the Grinder Golems, and okay, I can hear you in the comments. Look, they're strong. What am I gonna do? We have to play them. I promise this show isn't gonna become Joseph jerks off onto Grinder Golem every episode. Next is Maxi. Now, we're not playing other hand traps because we have literal hand traps to play, and more importantly because there's enough playables already. Next are our Magical Musketeers. We have 3 copies of Starfire, who's level 4, unfortunately. She specials a friend. 3 copies of Shooter the Kid, who can discard a Musketeer card to draw 2. 2 copies of Dock, who gets a Musketeer from grave, and 3 copies of Castbar, which gets from the deck. After that are the 2 Magical Contractor for the Grinder Golems, 2 copies of Pot of Desires, 3 copies of Ties of the Brethren, 1 Upstart Gabo, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 3 copies of Scapegoat, and our Musket cards. 3 copies of Steady Hands or Never Endorphin, which doubles the attack and defense of one of our Magical Musketeer monsters, and 3 copies of Cross-Dominator or Cross-Domination, which negates effects and sets attack to 0. Finally, our traps, 3 copies of Desperado, and listen, how did we miss Deathperado? That's such a funny pun. How did it not get ported over? Oh well. It destroys face-up cards, and 3 copies of Dead Man's Burst, which negates spells or traps. In the extra, it's all Link Shenanigans, 1 copy of Borreload, 1 copy of Skull Death, 1 Firewall, 1 Nigrisu, 2 copies of Ib, 2 copies of Akashic Magician, 1 copy of Mrs. Radiant, 1 Proxy Dragon, 1 Security Dragon, 3 Link Spiders, and a Link Karibo. So with that, let's jump into the games. So in classic 10-minute testing fashion, our first match is up against Playmaker, or at least Brave Max, playing Cybers. I swear to God, one of these days I'm going to lose to this deck in the first round. I mean, it's every day inching closer to having just enough playable Cybers monsters to make a bunch of Firewall Dragons. We've opened very well, we have a copy of Grinder Golem, and this really represents the best case scenario for the deck. We get to do all the shenanigans we want to. We'll start by getting 2 copies of Grinder Golem tokens, giving our opponent a Grinder Golem in that specific zone to go into Link Karibo and a Link Spider, going into Akashic Magician to return the Golem, 2 more tokens to our side of the field as we activate its effect again, go into a Security Dragon, bounce it 1 more time, and then of course 2 more tokens, 1 last go round. We'll go ahead and make one of those a Link Karibo and go into a 4-item Skull Death. This allows us to draw 4 cards, shuffle 3, we get a Castbar and a Ties of the Brethren, so we'll use this effect as special, then use Ties of the Brethren to get ourselves a Shooter Dock and a Shooter Kid. That triggers Castbar's effect, which allows us to get another copy of Deathperado. We'll set this copy of Scapegoat and pass it back. So we're firmly in control of this game. We'll go ahead and fire off the first Deathperado to destroy this copy of Grinder Golem, then we'll draw 2 cards off Shooter the Kid. They're going to use Unexpected Die to get Beatron, and then sign it backdoor to go ahead and get rid of it until next turn. This is pretty good for us. We're going to cross-domination at end step to get ourselves a copy of Dead Man's Burst, just in case, and we draw into another Deathperado, so now it's time to get just a little bit cheesy. We'll BM a little bit. This is really what this deck does best, especially when it can't assemble lethal. We'll attack for 2 Shooter the Kids and 1 Castbar. Not exactly lethal, but we have so much stuff in our hand that I don't think our opponent can possibly win. We'll start by normal summoning Stack Reviver. We'll destroy that. Use Shooter the Kid to draw 2 cards. They'll go into Infrafly. Starfire, Disciple, and Concede. So pretty impressive game one, but that's what happens when you get to do literally everything you want. Unfortunately, this hand represents what happens when you get to do nothing that you want. You can see we have no copy of Ties of the Brethren, no copy of Caspar, no copy of Grinder Golem, which means we're going to be playing this one with our hands behind our back. Our opponent is playing ABC Invoked Ojama, and please Christ, if you're listening, make Ojama the best version of ABC. Every day that TD ABC gets slightly weaker, I get more excited that Ojama Black might actually be registered at a regional in the near future. We get to go first, which is something. We'll go ahead and normal summon the Shooter the Kid. The only way we're getting out of this is if we draw into some really good Magibullet cards, so we're going to go ahead and set this Cyclone, predicting that, you know, we'll have the opportunity to Cyclone something. We do get to, we'll go ahead and send this Starfire, and what do you know, there's Magical Contract Door. We'll start by using this Cyclone to maybe draw some more cards. We do draw another copy of Magical Contract Door, so we'll give that to our opponent, using our own Magical Contract Door to start the Grinder Golem shenanigans. So here comes Link Rebo, here comes Link Spider. Let's go ahead and Akashic that Grinder Golem back to hand. These two tokens that we've just made are going to, of course, become a Security Dragon. You may have seen this play one or two times before. And finally, we'll get two more tokens, giving our opponent a Grinder Golem, making a Link Rebo, and going into a Skull Death. So at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. We're going to go ahead and special summon this Caspar, and we're going to give him 2400 attack because I expect that set card is going to be a C. It is. Of course, that special summons the A. We're going to attack the A, getting back the C, and our opponent is going to take their turn. Thankfully, they know we have the Dead Man's Burst, so they will just concede after revealing Ojama modification. Our third match is up against Hero, and as a fellow Hero player, I can say, God, we are so desperate for builds, please. You can see our opponent is playing Bubble Man, I guess to make Absolute Zero or something. We've opened kind of mediocre. We have two copies of Starfire, don't really want to see those at all, let alone in multiples. And we have, of course, a Grinder Golem and a Magical Contract Door. You only really want to see one, but I'm not going to turn my nose up at any way to make Skull Death. So we're going to start by... Oh, God. Can I... Oh, I hate myself. Lord. I could just dub doing the combo once and play it through every one of these. It never changes. It's never innovative. Just get used to seeing this play unless Konami does something before it's released. Okay, and here's Skull Death. So we'll go ahead and draw 4, shuffle it back. We get a Caspar, of course. We're going to go ahead and activate this Desperado now so we can trigger the Caspar effect and get ourselves a copy of Last Stand. Our opponent's going to activate the Hero Lives, and I'm thinking, actually, I think I can live through that. I want to get the change instead. But they get Blazeman and Polly, and I'm like, okay, well, if they leave Absolute Zero on the field, I guess I just win. We're going to go ahead and activate this Never Endorphin when he attacks so that we get another search off of this Caspar and take slightly less damage. Not particularly important, but most important, we're going to flip up this Scapegoat in end phase, and that should be all she wrote. With this Scapegoat, we can do basically anything we want. We're going to start by drawing a card, and then going into a copy of Proxy Dragon, getting ourselves back a copy of Link Karibo, and making a Link Spider. This allows us to go into Borreload, which should be lethal. We'll go ahead and special summon this copy of Starfire, normal summon this Shooter Star, destroy with the Desperado, use this Pot of Desires to trigger Starfire. I mean, just incredible plays. Get ourselves this Absolute Zero and attack for 25 and 28. Alright, so I'm feeling a little bit generous, so I'm going to include a fourth match as well. This is against longtime stream viewer Sonic21 Blast, showing up during our testing with, oh my god, Invoked Metaphys, and god, I hope this works out. It's just such a spicy brew. You can see we've opened basically everything we want. We have a copy of Grinder Golem, and we're going first, so we'll start by doing that. We're going to get 2 tokens to our side of the field and a Grinder Golem to our opponents, and really this is a very novel play. Don't try this at home, kids. You gotta have an IQ of at least 140 if you're going to do this. This step specifically, summoning Security Dragon, requires you to have watched every single episode of Rick and Morty at least twice. We're going to go ahead and get Link Karibo, and then we're going to go into Skull Death. Really, there's nothing you can do when Skull Death comes out. He's just Oh. You can Ash this guy? Okay, well, we'll have to be satisfied with the special summon Caspar. We're going to put the Cosmic under him because I want to trigger his effect. That gives us the most likely chance of doing so. We're going to Cosmic when he switches that guy to attack, kind of dare him to attack with the Desperado. Then we'll make Scapegoat at end step. That's just gonna kind of be all she wrote. These Scapegoats can, of course, become anything we want, but most likely we're going to want a Borreload Dragon. Let's go ahead and get Link Karibo back. We'll make a Proxy Dragon and a Link Spider. That allows us to go into Borreload, then special summon this copy of Doc. We have a Last Stand in hand to stop any battle traps. We'll attack for 28, 33, and really it's not that hard to assemble lethal. So, we're back with the deck. You're not going to want to hear this, but having played a bunch of different versions of the deck, the pile isn't nearly playable without Grinder Golem. Now, Skull Death does an amazing job of protecting your monsters, filtering your hand into relevant stun spells and traps instead of the garbage spells we are playing just to trigger our magical musketeers, and it enables a lot of tight plays like Ties of the Brethren. Without it, you just kind of end up normal summoning one guy a lot of the time, and then losing to basically everything in the format. Can you think of anything more sad than making Caspar, getting a Desperado, and then just getting Kaiju'd on your first turn? With Grinder Golem, however, the deck is nuts. It interacts in a ton of meaningful ways, it nets you a hell of a lot of advantage, and it has no problem OTKing. Is it the new Zoodiac? No. Is it a fun and exciting deck, provided you sell your soul to Grinder Golem? Yes. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed the last of the Grinder Chronicles. I'll steer clear of him until we get the next ban list. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/monobluetron every Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to midnight Eastern Standard Time. And if you have an idea for a certain deck you want to see me play, let me know in the comment section below and I'll do my best. Otherwise, I'll see you Wednesday.